You don't have to talk about it, but did you experience any harassment during GamerGate from either side or from third-party trolls?
Yeah, a lot. Um, so my name was featured fairly prominently on the websites associated with a couple of block lists, with some rather libelous commentary about the kind of people that were on the lists. That was difficult. I did get a lot of hate mail, mostly email. Most of that you can just brush off. I did have a very dark episode during Gamergate when I was feeling betrayed, like we talked about earlier, when a lot of people were kind of disowning me or discounting me or not maintaining the level of friendship that I thought we had and that I was extending to them. It was very isolating. I've had clinical depression since 2007. 3 suicide attempts between 2007 and today, and one of those was a result of that sense of being betrayed. And it was Gamergate people that rallied around and made sure I was okay and had the police do a wellness check and so on. And it's fairly likely I wouldn't be around today if I hadn't done that. But once it got out that this had happened, I got a razor blade sent to me through the physical post sometime after, sort of, do it right this time, sort of thing. So the vast majority of stuff is just water off a duck's back. I don't really pay much attention to online threats, insults, harassment. It's mostly meaningless. It was the personal betrayal that sent me spiraling, and then that physical letter was very hard to deal with, to cope with. But looking back now, I think how many hundreds of people were sending me horrible messages through social media, how many people were sending me horrible messages through email. It's got to be thousands of people, and one person was such an asshole that they sent that to me following a suicide attempt. Yeah, that's nothing, really.
Well, I'm glad you're still with us.
Thank you. I think it's important to talk about this stuff openly. There's a lot of activism that is bullshit, but I think lifting the stigma on mental health issues, particularly suicide, particularly male suicide, I think is really important. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've not been anything through anything like that, but I have experienced depression, or what I thought was depression, for a period of time, and had suicidal thoughts. And I thankfully, my friends were there, and my family, and I got through it. So just everybody, just if you're going through this now, there's hope for you, and don't
Yeah,
don't do anything you
I
don't.
think the one piece of advice I would give anyone who's going through it is just hold on and keep going, because especially if you've been through it before, that it passes eventually. You just got to grit your teeth and hold on.
You mentioned, is there anything else you want to talk about the depression you experienced?
Um, just it still bothers me, the sense of betrayal. That is the thing that really got to me. My depression is clinical and chronic, so it happens for no reason sometimes. But yeah, there was very definitely a trigger, and it was the sense of betrayal, and I think that was a more intense version of what a lot of people were feeling. That facts should matter, that the games media had rallied against people like Jack Thompson in the past. And why weren't they doing it now? What was different? It was like having the rug pulled out from under you. So I think I was just feeling a more intense and personal version of what a lot of people were going through.
You talked earlier about how you think your support for Gamergate harmed your career.
Yeah.
What sort of forms did that take, do you think?
So, besides game design, I also write fiction. Several people refused to be in a collection of short fiction if I was going to be included. So yeah, I was starting to do quite well with my fiction at the time, so that kind of stopped that. I've had to write under a pen name a few times because people refuse to associate with me. Some of them have been in touch privately and have said, I've got no problem with you. I just know that other people will, and I can't risk being associated with you. Some of the people I worked with in the tabletop gaming industry just cut off contact, freelance work dried up, that sort of thing. Again, either these are people who I felt betrayed me by not joining the righteous fight as I saw it, or just didn't want to be associated with me for whatever reason. And once people have cut off contact, your legend can take on a life of its own and become more and more absurd and more removed from who you genuinely are. So if I was the person that some of these people have come to think that I am, I would understand why they didn't want to associate with me. But I'm freer working for myself for the most part, so that's not all bad.
Why do you think the media didn't cover harassment like you received?
Um, it didn't fit the story. Two sides wasn't a good way to talk about this. Nuance is something that has disappeared from our media to a large extent. I think there's no energy to consider complex topics from multiple positions. They had taken the position that this was a harassment campaign against women by horrible gamers. So if the gamers were being harassed as well, that didn't fit. It didn't make sense within the framework that they had created. And a lot of them had just moved on from the story by then as well. So why go
Norm
back?
Normally I bring this up later, but it's I was going to ask the media spreading these lies about us. It's harmed people's lives. It really has. Like
Yeah,
this project
yeah,
might be more important than I think it is.
I think.
I mean, I think it's important for history, but like maybe I can make the world 10% better for all of us who were involved.
Um,
2% better.
I think it's important that people be heard. But I do think it's important to try and get that balance. Hopefully, you'll be able to get some people from the other side.
I've got 3.
More, more of them. Hopefully,
Yeah.
you'll be able to get more of them. I did my book from within the GamerGate perspective because I knew that wasn't going to be preserved, wasn't going to be covered. And so I felt that was important. But I owned up to my biases and what the goal of it was. But I think at this distance, it's probably more important to try and get both sides and how it affected people, the personal stories.
Almost every person I've interviewed has some sort of story where they've been experienced like some degree of like what they would consider harassment or but and it takes many different forms, but like what happened with you and what happened with Silverwolf,
Mm-hmm.
like that was where it impacts your real life. And like the harassment I received impacted my real life too, but only for like 3 weeks. So
Yeah.
it wasn't it's not the same.
I mean, so I had an issue before Gamergate. I wrote a blog article with a terrible title, which was "In Defense of Rape." But what it actually was a strong defense of free expression in games and media generally. That an author should be free to include bad things happening in the fiction that they create, and that this doesn't necessarily mean anything about that author. It was originally written in response to the fuss around the Lara Croft reboot and the implied sexual assault in one of the cutscenes. Nobody read past the title. That's as far as they got. It was meant to be a series of articles, but I think I only ever ended up writing 2 of them. And this was before Gamergate, and people stood by my side during that. And there were petitions to try and get the companies that hired me not to hire me anymore. In a lot of ways, for me personally, it was a dry run of what would then happen a year or 2 later. And I still have people harassing me over that. Some of the same people will turn up and, in reviews, they will review bomb me. They will warn people off working with me. Yeah, and this has been going on over a decade now. Some of these people, man, they're committed.
Hi, I'm Tachyon Blue. Thank you for watching another one of my GamerGate book video segments. Altogether, I've interviewed over 70 people involved with GamerGate, and I'm going to be launching a Kickstarter campaign in the coming weeks. So please, I need your support to help make this project a reality. I'm turning these 70 plus interviews into a multi-volume series of books, the first volume of which is already completed. And so I'd like you to please stay tuned for more information about the Kickstarter. And if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and comment. More updates will be coming in the near future. Thank you, and take care.